Hi, everyone. All right, so I think that this week is going to be an exciting week for us because this week we're going to read Salman Rushdie, the first of the authors that we've been reading who is still alive. Now, yes, he's a little bit old, but a man who's still living and breathing, and we're going to read him this week. So think about that for a minute, right? We have gone from William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge, who lived in the late 1700s, early 1800s, to a man who is currently alive today. So, Salman Rushdie, what are we going to read with him? I chose Rushdie for this week for a couple of reasons. One, let's think back about 3 weeks ago when we looked at imperialism and how England and other European countries, to be quite honest with you, went into places like Africa and Australia and wherever else they wanted to go and claimed a land that didn't belong to them for their own. And a lot of times they did it through violence and through force. And it was because they wanted to expand their trade markets and they wanted to, have national pride and things like that. Right. So India gets its independence from England around 1946. And Salman Rushdie was born about a year before that. So he was still a British subject when he was born. Now, Rushdie's readings, there's going to be I've chosen the two readings I've chosen for him for several reasons. Let me start with the fact that Rushdie, he's loyal to Britain. In fact, he actually has lived in England. He's loyal to India. He has adapted both, right? So he's adapted Indian customs with English customs, and they form him as a person. So he's going to talk in this imaginary homelands excerpt that I'm going to read for you. And of course, it's much longer than what I'm giving you. I'm only giving you a short portion of it. But he's going to talk about how here he is, he's a Muslim who eats pork, right? Muslims aren't supposed to eat pork, right? But they do, right? And so, how does one gain a national identity when they have been subjected to another power, right? Is he Indian? Is he English? Is he a combination of the both? Well, as you read in the imaginary homelands, I want you to think about that, right? And how when a nation invades another and they start implementing their own customs into that country, how do they adjust? Think about the African American situation, right? Slaves being brought over to America, and they're being told to be Christians and they're being told to do all this other stuff, and yet they don't want to let go of what they left behind at home. And somehow the two combine into what we now call the African American experience. So for Rushdie, I think he's going to resonate with a lot of students because of the fact that he is an outsider, but he's an insider. He's Indian, but he's English. What do we do with that? So that is the Imaginary Homelands reading. The Prophet's Hair is a very uh, entertaining reading. It's about a man who discovers a vial that was stolen from a mosque that has a strand of hair from the Prophet Muhammad in it. And there's a lot of magic and mysticism in this. We haven't really seen a lot of that this semester. We saw it in the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. We may have seen some of it in Goblin Market. But here is, you know, the Prophet Muhammad, as revered as he is. This is a story about how a strand of his hair is put into a vial and put into a mosque. And as long as it stays there, everything's fine. But once robbers steal it, and then our protagonist of the story finds it, and instead of returning it to the mosque, he decides to keep it for himself, all kinds of chaos is the result of those decisions. And so I want you to think about how Indian storytelling, and by Indian I mean Indians from India, not Native American Indians, how Indian storytelling has been molded with British storytelling and the English language for that matter to create a very entertaining tale, but there might be a larger message there as well. So these are things I want you to think about as you read Salman Rushdie this week. Um, so we are really getting into one of the most exciting parts of the semester, especially as far as it applies to you. Make sure that you do the reader response question and take the quiz and post in the discussion boards um, by their due dates.